The art director's Debrief, Wuthering Heights Deconstructed, a love that haunts and destroys. Hello, and welcome back to the Emotive archive. We left our characters in a state of fractured tragedy. Catherine has survived a descent into madness, but her soul remains irrevocably split. Heathcliff has been absent for 3 long years, a void at the center of her existence. In the chapters we will deconstruct today, 14, 15, and 16, that void is about to be filled with a storm. This is the heart of the novel's first great tragedy, a sequence of events that moves from a cold, calculated revenge to a fiery, passionate reunion, culminating in the death that will haunt the rest of the story. Today, we will analyze Heathcliff's transformation, his cruel seduction of Isabella, and the final devastating confrontation between 2 souls who cannot live with or without. The section begins with Heathcliff's return, and he is a changed man. The degraded, humiliated stable boy is gone. In his place stands a tall, athletic, and wealthy gentleman. But this transformation is purely external. Internally, his suffering has not been softened by time or fortune. It has been forged into a cold, hard weapon of revenge. His first target is not Hindley, his old tormentor, but the innocent and naive Isabella. His courtship of her is a masterpiece of cold-blooded psychological cruelty. He does not love her, he despises her. He sees her only as a tool, an instrument to inflict pain upon her brother, Edgar, and more importantly, to provoke a reaction from Catherine. The scene where Catherine confronts Heathcliff about his intentions towards Isabella is a brilliant study in psychological warfare. Catherine, in her arrogance, believes she still holds absolute power over Heathcliff's heart. She cruelly exposes Isabella's infatuation, mocking her in front of Heathcliff. But Heathcliff turns the tables on her. He calmly declares that he will not stop, and even suggests that Isabella could be a substitute for Catherine herself. This is a devastating blow. He is using Catherine's own weapon, her marriage to Edgar for social status, against her, implying that he too can make a pragmatic, loveless match. He is demonstrating that he has learned the civilized world's cruel games, and he can play them better than she can. His elopement with Isabella is not an act of passion, it is his first calculated move in a long and brutal chess game of revenge. This act of cruelty serves as the catalyst for the novel's most iconic and powerful scene, the final confrontation between Catherine and Heathcliff in chapter 15. Heathcliff, having heard of Catherine's grave illness, secretly enters her room at Thrushcross Grange. What follows is not a tender farewell between 2 lovers, it is a brutal, savage, and deeply honest collision of 2 tormented souls. The dialogue is a torrent of love and accusation. Catherine accuses him of having broken her heart and killed her. Heathcliff, in turn, accuses her of having betrayed her own soul, of having killed them both when she chose to marry Edgar. "Why did you betray your own heart, Cathy?" he cries. "You have killed yourself." Their final embrace is one of the most famous in literature, but it is not tender. It is a desperate, violent clinging, an attempt by 2 halves of a shattered entity to fuse themselves back together. He looks at her with an expression of such anguish, and she clung to him, threatening to strangle him. This is not a romantic embrace, it is a struggle, a battle, a desperate final attempt to reclaim a unity that has been irrevocably lost. He is not just holding a woman, he is holding his own life, his own soul, and he knows it is slipping away. The scene is a perfect storm of love, hatred, blame, and a shared, unbearable agony. The chapter culminates in the death of Catherine. She dies just a few hours after giving birth to a daughter, the future Catherine Linton. Her death is not peaceful. It is the final, exhausted sigh of a spirit that has been at war with itself for years. Edgar Linton's grief is quiet, profound, and civilized. He mourns the woman he loved. But it is Heathcliff's reaction that transcends human grief and enters the realm of the mythic. When Nellie tells him the news, he does not weep. He lets out a terrible animalistic howl of agony and smashes his head against a tree. And then he utters his famous, chilling prayer, a curse that will define the rest of his life. Catherine Earnshaw, may you not rest as long as I am living. Be with me always, take any form, drive me mad. Only do not leave me in this abyss where I cannot find you. O God, it is unutterable. I cannot live without my life. I cannot live without my soul. This is not a plea for her to rest in peace. It is a demand for her to haunt him, a desperate invocation to a ghost. He would rather be tormented by her spectral presence than live in a world where she is truly gone. The final poignant detail of him replacing Edgar's lock of hair in Catherine's locket with his own is a symbolic act of ultimate possession. Even in death, he claims her as his. The first part of the tragedy is complete. The wild heart of Wuthering Heights has stopped beating, but her ghost, summoned by the man who was her other half, is about to begin its long and terrible haunting. Now that we have animized the heartbreaking events of Catherine's death, let us elevate our analysis and propose a more radical Gothic thesis. The traditional romantic reading sees the final confrontation between Catherine and Heathcliff as the tragic climax of a great love story. But what if we view it through a darker, more supernatural lens? I will now argue that the relationship between Catherine and Heathcliff is not a romance, but a form of psychic vampirism. They are not simply two people in love, they are two beings who are psychically and spiritually dependent on each other for their very existence. And in their separation, they literally consume each other's souls. Let us first deconstruct the language they use. It is not the language of love, it is the language of identity and possession. Catherine's famous line, "I am Heathcliff," is not a metaphor. It is, in her mind, a literal statement of fact. He is not her lover, he is herself. When she is separated from him, she does not just feel heartbroken, she feels dismembered. Her descent into madness is the physical manifestation of a soul that has been ripped in two. Similarly, Heathcliff's final cry, "I cannot live without my life, I cannot live without my soul," is not a poetic exaggeration. He is stating that Catherine was not just a person he loved, she was his very life force, his soul. Without her, he is an empty vessel, a walking corpse animated only by her memory of her. Through this lens, their final violent embrace takes on a new, more sinister meaning. It is not just a hug, it is a final desperate act of psychic feeding. They are trying to reabsorb each other's spiritual energy. When Heathcliff says, "Why did you betray your own heart, Cathy?" he is not just asking about a romantic choice. He is asking, "Why did you sever our shared soul?" He believes her choice to marry Edgar was an act of self-mutilation that has doomed them both. He sees her impending death not as an illness, but as a consequence of this spiritual amputation. Now let us analyze Heathcliff's chilling prayer after her death. This is the key to understanding his transformation in the second half of the novel. His plea for her to haunt him is not just a lover's grief, it is an act of willing demonic possession. He is inviting her ghost, her spirit, her untamed essence to enter and inhabit him. And it does. The Heathcliff of the second half of the novel is not just a man driven by grief and revenge, he is a man possessed. He has become the physical vessel for Catherine's wild, amoral, and destructive spirit. His systematic destruction of the Linton and Earnshaw families is not his own plan, it is the fulfillment of her rebellious, savage nature, a nature that was suppressed and ultimately killed by the civilized world. He becomes the instrument of her posthumous revenge. The ghost of Catherine does not just wander the moors, it lives and breathes through Heathcliff's actions. This interpretation reframes the entire second half of the novel. It is not just a story of a man's revenge, it is a ghost story, the story of a powerful, angry spirit using a living body to wage war on the world that rejected it. This explains Heathcliff's almost supernatural cruelty, his seeming lack of human empathy, and his obsessive desire to possess not just the property, but the very souls of the next generation. He is not trying to build a new life, he is trying to recreate the world that was destroyed, to twist the lives of the young Cathy and Hareton into a new, darker version of his own past with Catherine. He is a man haunted, and he, in turn, is compelled to haunt others. From an artistic perspective, this aligns perfectly with the Gothic genre. The vampire, a central figure in Gothic literature, is a creature that survives by draining the life force of others. Heathcliff, after Catherine's death, becomes a psychic vampire. He drains the happiness, the love, and the will to live from everyone around him, all to feed the ravenous, empty void that Catherine's death has left in his soul. His ultimate desire, to be buried next to her so their bodies can dissolve and merge with the earth, is the final act of this supernatural union. He does not seek a Christian afterlife in heaven, he seeks a pagan dissolution into the wild, amoral nature of the moors, the only God they ever truly acknowledged. The story of Catherine and Heathcliff is therefore not a tragic romance that ends in death. It is a terrifying Gothic tale of a love so powerful and possessive that refuses to accept the boundary of death. A love that becomes a curse, a haunting that will only end when the two halves of a single savage soul are finally and literally reunited in the earth. Thank you for joining me in the Emotive Archive.